And big news from the FDA approving a new drug for Alzheimer's, the first in nearly 20 years, despite a big controversy among doctors, some arguing whether or not it works. In approving the drug, the FDA recognized that there still is no proof of its effectiveness for the 6 million Americans believed to be suffering from Alzheimer's. But they did grant approval on the condition that Biogen, the manufacturer, conduct a new clinical trial. The drug is not a cure or a prevention, but supporters argue that when used by early sufferers, it can slow the progression of this debilitating disease. Joining me now is NBC News senior medical correspondent Dr. John Torres and former FDA Commissioner Dr. Peggy Hamburg. Thanks to both of you. Dr. Torres, first to you. What does this landmark decision mean for the more than 6 million Americans who suffer from Alzheimer's and, of course, for their families? And just how does it work?
And Andrea, the hope is what it means for them, and that's what they're mostly talking about right now, is how much hope it's giving for them, not just because of this medicine, but because of the fact it opens the door to a lot more research and hopefully a lot more medicines down the line. But you mentioned a couple points there. You know, number one, this is not a cure for Alzheimer's, and it doesn't even reverse some of that cognitive decline they get with Alzheimer's. But what it does instead, it's a monoclonal antibody, so it directly attacks the amyloid plaques. Those are the clogs that build up inside the brain, and one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer's dementia. What it doesn't do, even though it does do that, it doesn't, again, reverse anything that could have happened before, and it has to be done early on. And that's why it was so controversial, and that's why some experts said it should not have been approved. Others said we definitely need to get it approved to at least give the family some hope. But when you talk to the patients themselves, the ones that have been in the human trials, they say that's exactly what it has done, giving them hope and giving them life, because it gives them that extra time they have for themselves and for their family. We talked to one, Phil, and here's what he had to say about it.
It's so hard to say where I would be without it. I mean, that's what everybody says, you know, how's it, is the drug working? Is the drug working? And you're like, you don't know. I've been on the drug for 5 years, this whole time I've been dealing with it. I think the drug's giving me life.
And so, again, this is giving those families the hope they need, even though it might not work for everybody. And even though in some cases it only works a little bit and other studies show it didn't work at all, it's giving them that hope. It's opening the door to more research. It's doing those things that the Alzheimer's Association says we need to do. And this is a landmark decision in their opinion.
And Dr. Hamburg, you used to be in that chair, in the charge of the FDA, making these potentially life and death decisions. Previously, the FDA Advisory Committee voted against this. What changed, and do you think it's the right choice today?
Well, this is certainly going to be a controversial decision, one of the many hard decisions that FDA has to make. I'm eager to actually see the full FDA discussion about the decision, and I think it's going to be very important to make the underlying data as available and transparent as possible, because people really do want to understand more. On the one hand, as was just noted, Alzheimer's is a devastating, debilitating disease affecting 6 million Americans, 30 million around the world, and it's only growing in terms of numbers of cases and the burden of disease. There aren't good treatments, and people are desperate. People want hope. On the other hand, if it doesn't really work, if it doesn't provide benefit, that's empty hope. And this is a drug that, you know, doesn't have the kind of evidence to prove effectiveness that is normally accompanying FDA decisions. It's an expensive drug that will require monthly infusions, and it comes with some safety risks in terms of brain swelling and bleeding. So it's a complex risk-benefit analysis. It is going to be very, very important that the company do the clinical trials to follow up so we can better understand how the drug works, at what stage of disease, and for which patients. But it certainly does mark a critical moment for the history of Alzheimer's drug development and for the FDA.
Do you think, Dr. Hamburg, that there was public pressure involved just because of the growing number of Alzheimer's patients and the anxiety and desires of the advocacy groups and the families?
Well, clearly there was a great deal of advocacy. And, you know, my mother actually died of Alzheimer's after a prolonged and very, very difficult course. So I understand about this, desperate need to look for treatments, and everyone at the FDA and all of the clinical researchers and people working in the field taking care of patients as well as families and caregivers understand that we need new, better treatments for Alzheimer's. But I don't think that this is ultimately the answer. I think we have to, look carefully at the data. I think we need to continue to study it. And importantly, we need to continue to do more research, develop new treatment opportunities. We need to continue to work to find the treatments that not only can affect symptoms and reduce symptoms, but ultimately we want to be able to cure and prevent this devastating disease.